Hey folks, and welcome back to another edition of My Car Guru. I absolutely love it when somebody who has listened to the program for a long time finally gives me a call or sends me a text. I can't remember whether this one started. I think it started with a text. Yeah. We went back and forth a couple of times, and finally they wanted to come down from the big city of Elizabethton. Now, if you live someplace else in the United States or on this planet, you would probably call it Elizabethton. But this is East Tennessee, so it's Elizabethton. The emphasis is on Beth. But yeah, they came all the way down from Elizabeth, I'd say probably 45 miles, and came to Greenville, and we sat down, met them in the showroom. We sat down at a table, and folks, they did this deal exactly like I've told you how to do a deal when you go into a new car dealership to buy a car, whether it's new or used car dealership. You lay the rules down early on. You want to do it your way, not their way. Their way is designed to maximize gross profit and, well, two goals basically: to sell you a car today, even if you're not ready, and to maximize the gross profit that they make on the deal. And they do that with disinformation many times and subterfuge. You know what that means? I'm not really 100% sure, but I think it means not being straightforward, not being transparent. You want both of those, right? I mean, the reason he said he came down is he just doesn't want to play the games. And he's listened to me long enough to know that I don't play games. That's just not how I do things or my people. We're not that kind of a business. And a lot of car dealers are. Most aren't. Most do it pretty straightforward. But still, they want you to follow their process. And what I try to teach people to do is you follow my process and you'll always get a better deal. So in this particular example, and I'm not using any names, they had been in the same car for a number of years, quite a few miles on the vehicle, been a decent car, had a few issues with it, but wanted to buy something new. It's time. And so they had a list of all the features that they were interested in. They didn't pick out a car. They didn't come here saying, I want a Nissan Rogue or I want a Ford Escape. No, they just had a list of the things that were non-negotiables. That's exactly what I tell folks to do. Know and understand what your non-negotiables are. Make the salesperson sell you a car. When I say sell you a car, what I mean is to do a full product presentation, go on a test drive. You know, we call it a walk around. That's where you open the doors and open the rear hatch and open the hood if necessary. I always open the hood for my customers. I don't know whether my salesperson did with them or not, but that's just something that, you know, you want to show them what they're getting for their money. I mean, if you go to let's say you're buying one of those D.R. Horton homes, and they have a model home, and you go in and you look at it, and you say, well, I like this color siding, and we need this much square footage, we need 3 or 4 bedrooms. You know, you tell them everything that you want, and then they take you to a model and show you what it looks like when it's all finished. That's the walk around. I mean, you get to see how everything works. Now, I mean, you don't really take a house on a test drive, but I guess it's a combination of the two. But you always drive the car. You know, one of the things that this gentleman noticed about this vehicle, I had him test drive 3 different things that I thought would fit. And, you know, they really liked one. They liked the other one, but it just wasn't right as far as visibility is concerned. Then they drove a third vehicle that I thought would be a really good value. It was more expensive. So they've got 3 good options in the right color for them to look at and analyze. That wouldn't have happened at most dealerships. What happens at most stores is they take you to where the vehicles are out there on the lot. They don't sit down with you and talk about anything until you've already selected a vehicle out there in the lot, and they're fishing to find out if you're a payment buyer or not, because that will dictate the way they present numbers to you. I don't care if somebody's a payment buyer. I want to make sure that they get the right car for them first. Is that not the most important thing? Is the amount of money that you're willing to pay per month the most important thing? I'm not saying it's not important. It is. I mean, it could determine whether or not you buy the vehicle if you can't get a payment that fits your budget. But what if you get a payment that fits your budget and you hate the car? 90 days after you've bought it, you're saying, honey, what have we done? This is totally wrong for us. I told you we needed a third row seat. But most people don't do that. They buy the payment. These folks weren't buying a payment. That's not the way I roll, as I like to say. No, let's pick out the right vehicle and we'll make the numbers work. If the numbers don't work, then you move on, right? You just don't buy the thing. You go home and think about it. So they test drove all the vehicles. They sat down. I went over, printed out, basically we looked at their trade-in too. We did an evaluation on their trade. I go to my sales manager. I said, okay, structure the deal this way, which right now we're selling every Nissan for invoice or below. And this particular, one of the vehicles had a $5,000 rebate on it. I thought that would be something worth considering. So I printed out 2 separate buyer's orders or sales contracts, broke down all the selling price, the trade value, the taxes, any fees that are involved, registration fees, and so forth, and a bottom line number. And you know what he said to me after I presented those numbers to him? He said, well, you know what I'm going to say next. I'm going to go home and think about it. I said, you have been listening to my radio show. Because that's the smartest thing that a person can do. Unless they've spent, hours and hours looking at the numbers and they're already prepared to buy something. They don't need to go think about it anymore. Thinking about it is just creating additional stress. I get it. But there's too many people that haven't thought about it. It becomes an emotional purchase rather than something that's logical, and they end up making a bad decision. And you know what the most gratifying thing is to me as a person, as a businessman, as a podcaster / radio host, is that these people didn't just hear me. They actually listened. They actually absorbed the information, and they're using it. And if most people would do that, if you don't have time to listen to the show, fine. Get a copy of the My Car Guru guidebook. Make copies of it yourself. It's I call it a guidebook, but it's actually 32 pages of information on a PDF if I send it to you to your email. And all you have to do to get it is send me your email address to 423-552-2020. And then you don't need me. You just need the book. And if you read it, absorb it, and use it, you will save money. There is no doubt, because you're laying out the rules, because these dealers, you go to the wrong one, and it's pressure. And you end up paying more for the vehicle. You don't really know what you paid for the vehicle when it's all said and done. I've seen it a bunch of times. People come in here, and they finally come in to talk to the guru. Said, "Can you help me get out of this?" I said, "Sir, I'm sorry. I could have helped you get out of it before you signed the paperwork, but now it's just a little bit too late. Here's what you can do." I'll talk about some of the things you can do if you feel like you've really been taken advantage of. I'll be back in just 1 minute. Okay, so one day I got a phone call from this elderly guy, and he said, "Can I come in and talk to you?" And I said, "Well, sure." So I didn't know exactly what it was about. I didn't know if he was coming in to, complain about some kind of a situation he had at my business, or if he was going to try to sell me something, wanted me to donate to some type of a civic event. No. Come to find out, he wanted to come back into my office and sit down and talk to me about how he could possibly get out of a deal. He had bought a Nissan Altima, and I won't say where, but it was a used vehicle, and he had no idea what any of his paperwork said. I've mentioned this on the show before, but if we print out all the paperwork at my dealership and go over it with the customer, they know what they're signing. But at a lot of stores, you don't know what you're signing. They just keep shoving paper in front of your face, and they say, sign here, press hard. 3 copies, press hard. And so you do it. And then the next thing you know, there's no paperwork. They hand you a storage card, a little flash drive that you have to have a computer to see your paperwork. And that's what they had given to this gentleman, who doesn't even own a computer and still using a flip phone. So he's not real technologically savvy when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I said, well, let me see it. I plugged it into the side of my computer. And as I've said before, this is the same example that I use many times. I said, did you know that you paid almost $1,000 for gap insurance? He said, what's gap insurance? So he paid close to $1,000 for something that he doesn't even know what it is. He's not ignorant, folks. He just was taken advantage of. I could say that he's a trusting individual, and he was excited about buying a new car, and he hadn't bought one in a long time. That's about all I can say. And then I hit him with the harder one. I said, did you know you paid close to $5,000 for an extended warranty? No. What? He couldn't believe it. I said, well, I'm looking at the paperwork here, and it's got your signature on it. I printed it out for him, showed it to him. He said, well, that's my signature. I said, well, you signed for it. You signed for the gap insurance, and you bought some other kind of protection package for $1,200. I mean, he was sick. And I'd be sick too, wouldn't you? Now, the problem is that all of this happened about 90 days before. And so, if there was a fraud committed, for example, that wasn't his signature, that's when you go talk to a lawyer. And sometimes if you talk to a lawyer and you have them write a letter to the dealership, then sometimes that will get some action. Some dealers will just clam up and won't do anything. They'll just turn it over to their lawyer, and then it's just running up legal fees. But sometimes a letter from an attorney will get their attention, and they may invite you into the dealership to discuss this matter. Now, one of the things you can do, if you do buy a car and you buy a service contract for $5,000 and you buy gap insurance for almost $1,000 and some other kind of protection package, you can go into the dealership and cancel all of that if you didn't finance it. If you paid cash for the car, which he didn't, he financed the car. If you finance the car, you can still cancel all those things, but it's not going to reduce your monthly payment. Why not? Well, because the cancellations go to the lender. So what it does is it reduces your unpaid balance. So let's say that you owe $25,000 on the car and you cancel all of those products, then you can reduce it to maybe your unpaid balance goes down to $19,500 or something like that. So you can do that, but it won't affect your monthly payment. The problem is with a lot of these dealerships is they will make you jump through every hoop you can imagine. It's like trying to get an insurance claim paid when you are planning on flying to Las Vegas and you get sick and you bought that AIG insurance, travel insurance. Well, that was me. I did it. And they did not make it easy, to say the least, to file that claim. It's kind of like going to a car dealership and trying to cancel an insurance contract at some dealerships. And you go in and you have to talk. Well, sometimes they'll make you talk to the finance manager. Well, he's the guy who loses commission if you cancel that contract. So you really don't want to talk to him. I would try to go to the main office and say, I need to do some cancellations. Why do you want to do that? Well, because I don't need this warranty and I just don't want it and I want to cancel it. Many times they will just force you to talk to the finance manager, and he's gonna do everything he can to keep you in that contract. Just get ready. But if you want to cancel it, you can. Now here's the other problem. How long should it take to cancel a warranty? Maybe, I might give them a week to provide me with the cancellation proof. If it takes beyond that, they're stonewalling, okay? And it might have just fallen through the cracks. That finance manager is going to take that cancellation request, and he's going to be resenting it for sure. And he'll put it in a file, and he'll just stew over it for a while, and it'll be the last thing he does that month. And if he's in control, if it's somebody in the office, they'll do it. Bam, they'll get it done. It's if you go to your salesperson and ask him to do it, he's powerless. He can't do anything. He doesn't even know what a cancellation is, probably. But you can get it done. But if it goes more than, I'd say 10 days, I'm going in and talk to the general manager of the dealership. Say, listen, I didn't realize that I didn't need these products. I shouldn't have bought them. I want them canceled. I know it's going to be applied to the end of my contract. You're going to send the money to the financing source. That's fine. I just want them canceled as of today, not tomorrow, today. Because the longer you wait for the cancellation, the less the cancellation will be, because they use the greater of time or mileage that has elapsed. It's a ratio. And so, since they're doing that, the longer that they can put you off, the more money they get to retain. So you can see where there's a conflict of interest there. Now, he shouldn't have bought the extended service contract to begin with, or he should have looked at the price that he was paying for it and said, no, that's too much. On a Nissan Altima, like a 1-year-old Nissan Altima, it's not as expensive to insure that car as it is like a Cadillac Escalade. When I say insure, I mean buy a service contract, an extended warranty. I mean, $1,800 to $2,500 maximum. $5,000, they're ripping you off, because that warranty probably cost them $1,200, $1,500, somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah, they can sell it for whatever they want to. And if you're not paying attention, if you're just a payment buyer, and you thought that you bought the car for $450 a month, and last thing you heard, it was for 60 months. And then when you get home, read the paperwork, they did it for $450 a month. No, but it was 84 months. And, that's only 24 months longer you're going to be paying for the vehicle. Just 2 years, no big deal. It is a big deal. I'll be back in just 1 minute. Okay, I am back. The best thing you can take with you, and the thing that they don't want to see you pull out, is a calculator. Now, most of you have calculators on your cell phone, but if you don't, it'd be really cool for you to get one of those that even has tape. If you pull out a calculator that has like paper tape on it, they're going to start panicking, because they know that you're going to check the numbers. You're a numbers person. The best thing you could say to them, even if you're not, say, hey, I'm a numbers person, and I want to see them, all of them, everything. So that little extension of that contract, you thought it was for 60 months at $450 a month, and it's 84 months. You only paid $10,800 more for that vehicle than you thought you did. What could you have done with $10,800 in your budget? I mean, that'd pay for one heck of a cruise around the world. Well, maybe for one. But still, you could go by yourself. Just think about these, what seem like little things, like just bumping you $20 a month or $30 a month, or, you buy this car, you work for a week or two and doing all this research, and you think you're a savvy car buyer, and then you go in and you're dealing with somebody who's a little bit savvier than you are with the numbers, and you get all emotionally caught up in the process, excited about the car and driving. You're thinking about, where you're going to take your first vacation in the car, and driving it to see the pretty leaves this fall and all that stuff, and you forget that, that budget that you agreed to before you left the house, and you think that everything's going to be okay. And so you sign all that paperwork, and you never really did finalize talking to your insurance agent about what the rates were going to be. And then you find out that your insurance rates are going to go up 30%. So that, in addition to the increased car payment, has you in a state of shock. And then you pull out the paperwork and you see that you paid, way too much for a service contract, gap insurance, all that stuff. So you can go in and you can cancel those products. And if you run into a problem, like I say, if it was for a fraud, you need to talk to a lawyer. If it's not your signature, that's a big problem. They can get in a lot of trouble signing paperwork for you. Now, most dealerships will get you to sign a power of attorney, but typically those power of attorneys are for registration purposes only, so that they can sign for your license plates and the registration of the vehicle. Don't sign some blanket power of attorney to somebody that you don't know, and don't sign some agreement that says that you can't sue them. There are a lot of dealerships, they get sued so much they got tired of it, so they just sign a binding or they just have you sign a binding arbitration agreement that if you find something you're unhappy with, you can't sue them. You have to go through arbitration. And that's where you have a mediator, could be an attorney or whoever, that makes a decision. You're not taking them to court. And another mistake some people make is they start blasting the dealership on social media and on their Google their Google ratings before they've even gone in to talk to them to see if they're going to make it good, because you're giving up all your leverage. If you've already blasted them, they don't have as much to lose. Now, you can't, as I've said before, you can't go in and threaten retaliation with social media or with their Google ratings in exchange for them doing what you are asking them to do. That's extortion. Now, that's not, I don't know if it's criminal, but it is extortion. And it is something that you can get in some serious trouble. They can end up suing you if you're not careful. So approaching this the right way, going in calmly, talking to the general manager, being a businesslike person, it'll get you further. However, go in with a calculator, especially one with tape. They'll just love you for that. And I will too. Thanks for listening to this edition of My Car Guru. Send me a message if you have any questions about car values or whatever. If you want some advice on how to handle a particular situation you've gotten stuck with, feel free to let me know about it. Text me 423-552-2020 or send me an email to lennylawson2020@gmail.com. And don't forget to ask for the My Car Guru guidebook, because if you have that and you read it, you won't need to do anything else if you follow the instructions. It's easy. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, as my granddaughter likes to say. Again, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.